In a time long past, when the air was heavy with the anticipation of fate, and the seas whispered tales of old, there lived a young warrior named Theron. Imagine, if you will, a youth of 19 summers, eyes as deep and reflective as the Aegean Sea itself. He was an Athenian, born under the sun-drenched columns of the city, where the air was alive with philosophical debates and the promise of democracy. Theron had not always been a warrior, but circumstances beyond mortal control had guided his hand to the grip of a spear. His life, which had started with moments of unblemished joy beneath the olive trees at his family estate, had warped with the winds of war. The heralds of chaos announced themselves on a cloudless morning when the Persian king Darius sent his mighty armada to the shores of Hellas, seeking to subdue the free people within her embrace. On that day, Theron's destiny turned its gaze to the stark landscape of history. His family, proud stewards of their land, were one of the many who did not survive the Persian onslaught. News came hastily, delivered by a bloodied rider, earth clinging to his cloak in testament to the distance travelled. The visage of his home reduced to cinders haunted Theron's dreams, a nightly reminder that fate was a weaver as much inclined to tear as to mend. Left with neither root nor kin, he found his only solace in the city of Athens, standing steadfast against the might that sought to overwhelm it. And so, with the fervour of youth and the righteousness of a just cause as his companions, Theron joined the ranks of Athens' defenders. Days turned into weeks of ardent training as he learned the art of war alongside others driven by the same fire, their hearts synchronized by a mutual desire to protect their homeland. The owl of Athena watched over them, whispering wisdom into the winds that rustled through the poplars where they drilled. Each morning, as the first rays of Helios spilled over the horizon, Theron stood amongst his peers on the dirt-stained exercise grounds, disciplined by the rhythmic commands of their captains. The metallic symphony of swords unsheathed and the harmonious thud of shields striking in unison became the anthem of their resistance. His body, once lean and untested, became the vessel through which courage flowed, fortified by sweat and tempered by discipline. Yet, amidst these preparations, Theron found fragments of peace in the act of remembering, of dreaming of what once was. He would sit at twilight beneath the shadow of the Parthenon, its marbled beauty a silent testament to the resilience of his people. With each delicate brushstroke of dusk across the sky, he would recount tales of his childhood. The memory of his mother's laughter as it echoed off the garden walls, his father's gentle but firm hand guiding his first youthful steps, were as alive in his heart as the pulsing river beyond the city gates. Life in Athens, during these trepidatious times, was a delicate balancing act perched precariously between hope and despair. Those who took arms alongside Theron did so driven by a cause larger than themselves, a tapestry of freedom intricately woven with threads of unity and determination. For every spear honed, there was a story of vengeance or redemption, of a life lost too soon or one reclaimed from the jaws of conquest. As the seasons unrolled their carpets of green and gold, whispering the secrets of the world to those willing to listen, the call to arms grew ever louder. Intelligence of Persian movements moved like shadows under the light of his city's strategic minds, and with each passing night, Theron felt the whisper of destiny urging him onward, to stand with his fellow warriors at Marathon, where legends were soon to be born. This was the tale of Theron, whose resolve became the forge where the future of Athens would be shaped, one breath at a time. As sleep lured him into its gentle embrace under the twilight canopy, he dreamt of a different tomorrow, one deeply etched with his own place in the annals of history. And thus began an epic journey set against the stage of the First Persian War, as dreams of valor rose with the promise of dawn. As the days of summer waltzed slowly to their end, carrying whispers of autumn on the cooling Mediterranean breezes, the city of Athens steeled itself for the battle ahead. Theron, now a seasoned soldier amidst the ranks of Athenian warriors, felt the heavy cloak of anticipation settle upon his shoulders. The sun hung low in the sky, its glow gilding the city in a farewell embrace, before the inevitable call of duty led the troops to Marathon. In the narrow streets of Athens, citizens mingled with warriors, their gazes filled both with worry and a fierce pride. It was here that Theron began to see the faces behind the stories, the cobbler who was also a father, the merchant whose laughter would ring out despite the looming threat of war. They all carried with them tales of love and loss, underlined by the resilient spirit that defined their great city. Theron found solace in this camaraderie, forming bonds with his fellow warriors, brothers forged not in blood, but in vision and resolve. Among them was Kairos, a towering figure with an infectious smile and a voice echoing the strength of thunder. He had been a shepherd before the shadows of Persia stretched across their lands, turning his shepherd's crook into a spear. Victor, another of Theron's companions, embodied the quiet intellect that Athens was famed for. Formerly a student of philosophy, he brought with him strategies woven with the threads of Socratic logic and determination, his mind as sharp as the spear at his side. Their company was a microcosm of Athens itself, a testament to the diverse strengths of individuals uniting under a common cause. Together they practiced through the chill of dawn, the clamour of their drilling a rhythmic cadence that echoed across the hills. Each lunge and synchronized movement was laced with the hope that their preparation would serve them in the hours of chaos to come. The eve of battle arrived sooner than any of them had anticipated. The plans were laid, and the generals spoke with a calm assurance that belied the gravity of their decisions. A fleet of Athenian ships was arranged to protect the city's coastline, but it was upon the field of Marathon that Theron and his fellow hoplites were destined to meet the Persian forces. On the morning of departure, Athens awoke under a sky tinged with the colours of dawn, a tapestry unfurling in hues of orange and gold, as if to embolden the spirits of those who would defend her. Theron awoke with a heart thundering within his chest. Every breath was filled with the crisp air of resolve, every heartbeat a reminder of what he fought for: justice, honour, and the memory of his family. They marched through the city's ancient gates with a silent dignity, flanked by mothers who held their children close, planting kisses of farewell upon weathered cheeks. The air was thick with the scent of incense and prayer, motes of hope drifting upward, destined to mingle with the divine. Along the dusty path to Marathon, conversations interwove, forming a tapestry of voices filled with tales of loved ones and dreams of peace. Theron seized these moments for reflection, his mind returning to his family. He imagined his mother's embrace, the warmth of her cheek upon his, the strong yet gentle guidance of his father's hand. They were with him, not as memories, but as intrinsic pieces of who he had become. The landscape itself seemed to shift as they approached the plain of Marathon. A vast expanse turned into the stage upon which history would unfold. Before them lay the Persian encampment, a sprawling testament to their might. Theron could see the glint of their armor, hear the distant murmur of 1,000 voices carried upon the wind. It was a sight both humbling and empowering, for in its shadowed expanse he found the clarity of purpose. As the sun reached its zenith, casting long shadows across the earth, the Athenian forces positioned themselves for battle. The ground thrummed beneath their feet, a steady pulse resonating with the courage within their hearts. It was within this moment, a breath held in the palm of time, that Theron understood the essence of war, the confrontation of sheer will interwoven with the silent dreams of peace. This was the path they had chosen, not just for victory, but for the chance to reclaim their history, an epic tale carved through struggle and sacrifice. Theron and his fellow warriors stood poised upon the precipice of legend, ready to meet their destiny with unwavering strength. With the call to arms echoing across the battlefield, the Athenian phalanx surged forward, led by spirits as undaunted as the immortals their myths revered, ready to etch their place into the annals of time with each step they took forward. The battlefield at Marathon was swathed in the early light of day, a silent testament to the calm before the storm. In this hallowed expanse, every rock and blade of grass bore witness to the assembly of two mighty forces, one vying to conquer, the other striving to preserve. The air weighed heavy with anticipation, thick with the promise of the clash to come. Theron stood amidst the ranks, his heart a drum that matched the steady rhythm of marching feet. He glanced to his left, where Kairos hefted his spear with casual ease, the flicker of a grin lighting up his stern features. To the right, Victor adjusted his helmet, eyes sharp with the keen edge of intellect, calculating probabilities, preparing for the uncertainty that lay ahead. The Athenian forces were outnumbered, their ranks a fraction of the Persian might. Yet, what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in determination, a force that intertwined with the very fabric of their being. It pulsed through them, uniting the farmers, artisans, and scholars who stood shoulder to shoulder, transformed into warriors by necessity and will. As they formed the phalanx, Theron marveled at its strength, a human shield interlocking in defiance of the adversary. The line was a living, breathing entity, a serpent of bronze and leather poised to strike forth with purpose. It was here, at this moment, that the camaraderie forged through weeks of training became a lifeline, binding them into an unbreakable front. Across the field, the Persian encampment stirred. Banners of vibrant colors unfurled in the breeze, the insignias of kings and conquerors catching the light. Theron could see their infantry, archers, and the ominous silhouettes of cavalry beginning to move as a singular force, an indomitable tide preparing to crash against the valiant shores of Athenian resolve. The signal for battle resounded, a horn blown long and deep, its note connecting the heavens and the earth. With that, the battlefield erupted into movement. The disciplined ranks of Athenian hoplites surged forth, their voices lifted in a collective cry that carried their intention across the span of history. As the two forces converged, time fractured into a series of frozen moments etched into Theron's memory. The collision was a cacophony of sound and fury, the clang of metal on metal as spear met shield, the visceral thud as bodies collided with unrestrained force. Dust rose in swirling clouds beneath the feet of warriors, mingling with sweat and breath, enveloping the battle in its thick embrace. Theron found himself in the midst of this maelstrom, his spear steady in his grasp. He thrust forward with the precise movements drilled into him, each strike a testament to his training, each parry a testament to his will. Beside him, Kyros felled foes with an artful dance of violence, his strength and balance unmatched. Victor, with eyes blazing with strategic insight, anticipated movements, lending direction to their chaos. The field of Marathon became a tapestry of motion, where every gesture painted a picture of survival and defiance. Through the chaos, Theron's focus zeroed in on the faces of the Persian soldiers, men far from home, bound by loyalty or fear to their king's ambition. For a breath, he saw not enemies, but reflections of himself, bonds of duty wrapped in human form. As the hours stretched, the sun bore relentless witness, urging the battle to its crescendo. Here, upon this sacred ground, the impossible balance between despair and hope seesawed precariously. Yet, with each wave, the Persian forces charged. A counter-wave of Athenian bravery stood firm, bolstered by the fury of their cause. Amidst the whirlwind of combat, an opportunity revealed itself, a weakness in the Persian line, like a thread begging to be pulled. Theron saw it, and with a shared glance, he and his companions understood the silent command. Kyros shouted, his voice a signal to rally. "Now for Athens, for freedom!" They pressed forward, spurred by the opening, their advance a spear point into the heart of their enemy. Spear met shield with newfound vigor, the Athenian line bending but not breaking, a reflection of the indomitable spirit that thrummed within its core. Individual battles unfolded in rapid succession, swiftly shifting the momentum in favor of those defending their homeland. Through it all, moments of clarity emerged for Theron, a tapestry within the storm. The rush of adrenaline sharpened his senses, each heartbeat a reminder of what he sought to protect. In the faces of his comrades he saw what he fought for, the laughter of children, the wisdom of the elders, the sanctity of a day unmarked by persuasion or fear. With every step driving deeper into the Persian formation, the tide began to shift, an unyielding truth echoing in the hearts of the Athenian defenders. Marathon could not fall, not while hope burned brightly in their chests. As Theron lunged into the fray, striking with the precision born of necessity, he realized that this day would live on in history, painted by the valor of those who dared to defy an empire. The echoes of their cries mingled with the crashing waves, a symphony of past and present intertwining over the blood-soaked sands, where legends were born beneath Athenian and Persian skies. Amidst the tumultuous cacophony of the battle, as if suspended in time, Theron moved with a renewed sense of purpose. The sun, now high in the sky, cast its relentless gaze over the field of Marathon, illuminating the courage that surged through the ranks of Athenian warriors. Dust and sweat clung to him, yet his mind was as sharp as any blade upon the field. The momentum of the battle swayed like a wayward tide. Theron and his companions, an unyielding core within the Athenian line, pushed forward, yet the Persian forces were resilient, their pressure constant, their warriors seasoned by countless campaigns. Yet, within this theatre of war, something extraordinary unfolded. An echo started, a murmur amidst the tumult, a cry of valor that wove through the ranks like a thread of steel. It began with the Athenians who had not just joined to fight, but to protect their very way of life. The air seemed lighter suddenly, the oppressive weight briefly lifted by the unexpected, an ally, a stroke of fortune turning the tides of fate. Theron fought with tempered grace, his spear an extension of himself. With each thrust, he recalled the strength of his father's lessons, the wisdom poised in his mother's words. He shifted, parried, and struck back with a precision honed in the crucible of necessity, every movement purposeful, every strike deliberate. Beyond the immediate chaos, Theron glimpsed a stirring across the Persian ranks. The morale that had once been their steadfast ally was wavering. At first it seemed implausible, impossible perhaps, but then it became unmistakably real. The Persian soldiers, perceptive and not without their own will to survive, began to glance toward the sea, toward the horizon, toward hope lost or salvaged, Theron could not say. "Hold the line!" Theron's voice cut through the clamour, a singular command binding his fellow warriors to the heart of their purpose. Standing resolutely beside him, Kairos and Victor responded with unwavering support, their presence as natural to him as the very breath in his lungs. Seconds stretched into minutes, and minutes into what felt like an eternity as individual battles unfolded like seeds in the wind. Each silhouette of conflict, a scene where strength, fear, and fate collided in rapid succession. Familiar faces from his ranks emerged, Athenian youths turned warriors, their expressions radiant with determination and resolve. As the front line of the phalanx drove deeper into the Persian formation, it became clear that the tide was turning. Where once there had been a surging wave of aggression, now the Persian lines showed wear, a faltering that hinted at the victory they sought. Through the roiling dust cloud that enveloped the combatants, the Athenian ranks pressed forth, capitalizing on the flickers of doubt flickering within the Persian gaze. Theron, amid the struggle for control, witnessed acts of bravery that transcended words, an archer standing firm despite waves of advancing swords, a wounded warrior refusing to falter, each act an anthem to the indomitable spirit of resistance. His own heart swelled with the realization that he was not just fighting for his city, but for the legacy of those who had come before him, and those who would inherit the realm made free by their deeds. Yet, amid this burgeoning hope, the battle's cost was carved into the land and its people, fellow soldiers who stood no more, echoes of laughter silenced by the finality of conflict. These were the sacrifices wrought upon the path to freedom, paved with the courage of those present and remembered by the shadows who bore witness on the winds. And then came a pivotal moment when the Persian resolve, once deemed invincible, began to truly fracture. A cry rose from the depths of the battlefield, carried across the shifting dust, a signal that turned the murmur to a roar. Athenian forces, surging forward with renewed fervor, pressed the advantage, and the Persian front lines, strained and weary, began to crumble. Speed and precision hailed from every direction as the balance tilted, the Persians driven not only by the sword, but by the dawning realization that their invincible invaders were mortal after all. With each Athenian step forward, the legends of unconquerable Persian might were rewritten in the sands of Marathon, bound by the ink of Athenian valor. In that defining embrace of time, where destiny's fingers poised to write history, Theron found himself standing upon the edge of victory. He met the eyes of his comrades, Kairos with his strength undeterred, Victor with intellect burning bright, and knew beyond the veil of battle they had turned the course of their city, their civilization. With a final, coordinated push, the battle ebbed from onslaught to retreat, the Persian forces breaking, scattering back toward the sea, retreating to their ships. The battlefield, scorched by sun and stained with blood, whispered its own lullaby, the gentle requiem of the fallen mingling with the breeze, carrying a tale born to endure through centuries. As the Athenian warriors gathered, some with smiles, others with tears, Theron stood at the heart of them all. For the first time since the shadows fell upon his life, he felt the warmth of their triumph, a bittersweet reminder that the cost of freedom was eternal vigilance. But with this victory, a bulwark against future tides had been forged. Together, in the aftermath of the storm, they gathered beneath the expanse of unburdened sky, ready to walk the path to Athens once more, as victors defined not merely by battle, but by an enduring spirit unbroken by the trials they faced. Days passed since the dust had settled on the battlefield at Marathon, and the echoes of victory continued to vibrate through the city of Athens like an anthem sung anew. The returning soldiers were greeted with the jubilant cries of a grateful populace whose freedom had been fiercely defended. The streets thrummed with a rhythm that spoke of resilience and celebration, a profound acknowledgement of peace hard-earned. Theron walked through these streets, his heart heavy with the memories of those who had fallen, yet buoyed by the living legacy they had secured. The sun shone above, casting its golden mantle upon the marbled edifices and marketplace stalls, bustling with life restored. Children danced along the edges of fountains, their laughter mingling with the murmur of conversation, painting a tapestry of life renewed. In those vibrant streets, Theron reunited with Kairos and Victor, their hands clasped in a triumvirate of survival and friendship. They spoke little of the battle, for words could not encompass the enormity of what they had been through together. Instead, they immersed themselves in the warmth of their city's embrace, living echoes of camaraderie born amid adversities. Yet, amidst this thriving city, Theron felt the gentle tug of solitude, drawing him once more to the memory of his family. To walk the paths once shared, he retreated to the sun-dappled groves on the outskirts of Athens, where he had often wandered as a child. Here, within the embrace of nature's sanctuary, he was free to remember unfettered, enveloped by the fragrant memory of olive branches and their whispered secrets. Under the shadow of an aged olive tree, Theron reflected on the journey that had brought him from loss to this moment. Visions of his mother and father graced his mind, their presence warm and tangible, as if the very spirit of Athena herself granted him the solace of their voices. He closed his eyes, lips parting in a silent promise to continue the life they had begun, to honor them through the world he would help create. His thoughts turned to the city itself. Athens, bastion of knowledge, cradle of culture, a city reborn from the strife upon the plains of Marathon. The men of Athens were not just reclaimers of territory, but founders of a dream encased within marble and wisdom. Resolute, he perceived the weight of history upon his shoulders and the boundless possibilities of the future ahead. Days spilled into nights, and Theron, bound by duty and a new-found vision, found himself amidst the assembly of Athens's brightest minds. The debates within the ecclesia, an embodiment of democratic ideals, were fierce yet constructive. Decisions made within their halls would ripple outward, weaving the future of their city-state with threads of intellect and debate. The events at Marathon became a catalyst for change, invigorating the citizens of Athens with a newfound sense of identity. With victory came the necessity for preparedness, and an entire generation, steeled by experiences of their elders, now looked to the horizon not only in defense, but in aspiration to build an enduring peace. Theron stood as a devoted participant in these deliberations, his voice an echo of empathy and understanding, urging Athens towards balance and prosperity. He sought to honor the past, even as Athens moved boldly into the future. His experiences sharpened his resolve, making him a harbinger of practical wisdom shaped by what he had witnessed and what he had endured. By moonlight, stories blossomed at evening hearthsides, tales spun from fact and myth as parents regaled their children with the valor shown at Marathon. In the realm of memory, where legend and truth entwine into the fabric of heritage, Theron's name and that of his comrades was woven intricately, testaments to courage that would guide future generations. Victor, ever the scholar, documented their journey, his scrolls preserving each heartbeat of their struggle, each victory cry for those who would seek wisdom from the past. As the ink flowed from his quill, words etched into papyrus meant. To stand the test of time, he encapsulated not just the history of conflict, but the philosophy of humanity's resilience. Kairos, with his booming laugh and unyielding courage, infused the city with tales of strength and levity. Within the wrestling grounds, where olive oil glistened upon bronzed skin, the next wave of Athens' defenders trained beneath a sunburnt sky. It was here that the law of Marathon transformed into guidance, a continuous reinvention of lessons born from the field of strife. In quiet moments of reflection, away from the fervor of speeches and training grounds, Theron returned to the murmuring waters of the Ilissos River. His shadow stretched alongside the water's edge as he watched its quiet journey toward the sea, realizing that, like the river, his own path was yet uncharted, an adventure unfurling under the watchful gaze of the future. Athens, vibrant and alive, thrived in the aftermath of Marathon's trial. Theron, a sentinel of memory and hope, stood resolute and inspired. With each passing dawn, he embraced the delicate dance between what had been and what could be, ever aware of the timeless refrain that, though battles may pass, the spirit of a people lives on, echoing through the ages with each heartbeat of freedom. As the seasons shifted and Athens stood poised on the brink of a new era, Theron found himself at the intersection of reflection and forward momentum, a juncture where history and potential converged. The city, thriving in its newfound serenity, continued to evolve, feeding on the vigors of its past victories to propel itself into an illuminated future. The symphony of daily life in Athens played on, harmonious in its contrasts. Markets bustled with the vibrance of trade, the air rich with the fragrance of spice and the lively exchanges of artisans whose crafts spoke of intricate beauty. The agora, Athens' beating heart, thrived with philosophers and orators, each rhetoric another brick cementing the foundation of ideas that would echo through time. Theron, amidst this ever-turning wheel of life, pursued a journey of introspection and purpose, seeking to harmonize the lessons of the past with the aspirations of tomorrow. He often walked the colonnades of the academy, a sanctuary of intellect where minds deliberated, forged in the crucible of inquiry and debate. Amidst these hallowed halls, the voice of Socratic wisdom resonated profoundly, each question a beacon guiding students toward understanding. Theron, older now and wiser beyond his tenure on Marathon's fields, endeavored to contribute as a mentor, sharing his experiences, yet remaining ever open to the new pupils whose imaginations danced with the light of discovery. The youth of Athens were a vibrant tapestry of potential, a generation inspired by tales of valor and philosophy, standing against the winds of a future shrouded yet promising. Theron saw in their eyes the same spark that had once driven him, a yearning to understand and shape the world around them. Among his pupils, one stood out, a spirited girl named Elara, whose curiosity burned fierce and unrelenting. She sought answers in the stars, her gaze often turned upwards, mapping celestial paths with an astuteness that belied her years. Her questions, poignant and adventurous, stirred school debates, kindling hope in levels both grounded and celestial. Seeing Elara's zeal, Theron nurtured her curiosity, guiding her toward the works of Pythagoras and Thales, their principles illuminating the mechanics of the heavens she adored. Under his mentorship, the possibilities within the sky became accessible, each constellation a stepping stone toward achieving her dreams. Meanwhile, the city continued its dance, weaving culture, democracy, and strategic alliances judiciously. Athens was a beacon among city-states, its centrality in matters of politics and art becoming as unshakable as marble foundations that sustained its architecture. Victory at Marathon had not only secured its people, but had cast a spell of peace on the whispering winds that swept across the Aegean. In this golden era, the arts flourished, a testament to the boundless creativity of her people. Sculptors captured the elegance of form, their chisels shaping stone into being, while playwrights wrote tragedies and comedies that spoke to the human condition. Music echoed through public spaces, lutes and lyres striking notes of both sorrow and exuberance, encompassing life's totality. To Theron, each string plucked and every word uttered was a sigh upon the expansive tapestry of Athenian culture, one he was honored to partake in, yet also eager to encourage in others. He found solace in knowing that the fight at Marathon had granted Athens the room to expand, to breathe, and to delve into its identity. Unimpeded. On afternoons, shaded by the gentle boughs of olive trees, Theron sat with his friends, Kairos and Victor, who had been more than comrades. They had become pillars in the architecture of survival and transformation. Their discussions, once steeped in the immediacy of threat, now orbited around the possibilities tied to legacy, held together by the string of their bonded friendship. Victor had seen to it that their history, Their shared experiences became the cornerstone of narrative. His manuscripts now guided new troops, inspired poets, and whispered wisdom into open ears. Kairos, ever the pragmatic optimist, instilled his strength and vigor into the next generation of athletes, inspiring their pursuits of greatness within stadiums, not battlefields. As twilight descended over Athens, weaving skies in hues of indigo and gold, the sun setting behind the hills beyond the Saronic Gulf, Theron often wandered to that sacred place where the weight of time felt lightest. Standing atop the Acropolis, he watched as the city unfolded below him. A city changed, yet ever the same, like the gentle flow of a river unchanged by the dynamics of its course. Underneath the tranquil gaze of the Parthenon, crafted to honor Athena, patroness of wisdom and warfare, Theron felt a profound kinship with history, an oath shared with those who had walked before him and those who would follow. It was a story not confined to the pages of Victor's scrolls, but one living within the heartbeats of its people. And thus, as he stood there, a sentinel of memories and dreams, Theron embraced the notion that while wars might define moments, peace shapes lifetimes. The tale of Marathon, inscribed in sweat and blood, would transcend his own, imbuing Athens with the strength and wisdom it needed to face new dawns, a hopeful synthesis of past and future bound in the eternal present. Within that expanse of hopes and dreams, Theron found peace, a quiet understanding that though his path had been born from conflict, it was shaped anew by the love and courage of those who dared to imagine a better world. In this realization, he became both a guardian and a creator, crafting legacies out of moments, embracing the infinite dance of time.